I'm a marketer or a marketeer by trade. My wife often calls me a musketeer, but I'm a marketeer. And my background is I started working in hotels in the liquor trade, picking up glasses when I was around 16, 17. Through university studying marketing and arts, began to, develop more of an interest in the liquor field and found myself working with Lion Nathan in beer for about 11 years after that, before moving to 4 and 20 Pies, then on to Tabcorp and gambling, and now I'm the head of marketing for a company that makes paper, Australian paper, here in Australia. It was very refreshing. It was all to do with beer, and the bulk of the work there was around classical marketing, actually designing products, designing beer brands that would meet the needs of different segments of the marketplace. One of my most favourite pieces was working on a brand in South Australia called Southwark. And Southwark, yes, Southwark Bitter. Southwark comes from the UK suburb of Southwark, or the London suburb of Southwark. But it's a beer brand in South Australia. And I worked with a gentleman called David Lancashire, who has been in design, I think, for a number of years. And we had a terrific amount of fun developing this heritage feel for this beer brand, which had a lot of history in South Australia. And we kind of went back and tapped into a lot of that history with a very classical positioning of a beer brand. But Lion Nathan was a lot of fun. Beer's an exciting space to be. Men in Australia are very passionate about beer. It's really a badge in its own right for many people. The brand you hold is like the type of clothing you wear or the shoes you buy, etc. Beer goes far beyond being a refreshing drink. It really is an emotive and a social form of identity for a lot of men, although they may not admit that straight up, but it has a lot of badge value. I describe it as being, when you walk into a liquor store or an environment where you buy liquor, you've got all these labels in front of you, and this is back in the 90s, I should say, this particular project. But the labels at that time were very much about energy, about drive, about power, about exertion from alcohol. With David, we actually took time to say, well, can we actually develop a brand that kind of is a little bit calmer, a little bit gentler, more warmer, if you like, in terms of picking up on some of those latent good time sentiments that perhaps the older beer drinking generation would recall. So it's very much targeted at kind of 45 plus males, this particular brand, but it was harking back to an earlier time and a little bit of a reminiscent or reminiscing aspect to the design. David did a great job of picking up on this beautiful Stein, this German Stein, which had been a mark for the brand for some time, but he gave it more prominence on the design and some nice kind of shape. And look, the best way I can describe it is it just had a lovely heritage feel that if you saw that Stein in real life, you'd go, I could imagine drinking a nice cold ale out of that, or a nice Guinness, or stout, and it'd be quite a nice experience. So a fair bit of theatre around the sort of look and feel of it as well. Well, I'm a huge believer in brands. I think brands are vital. The role of branding, I don't think can ever be understated, in that we touched on this before, but brands that are more than just a functional inclusion in your life, brands that somehow tap into the way you want to be seen or the way you want to feel, really become part of your identity, or have the ability to be part of your identity. So for me, branding and the simplicity of brand design is just an absolute Monty to get right from a marketeer's point of view, because you want a simple connection, an easy way for a customer or a client to adopt your product and sort of relate to that product. I'm a big fan of branding. Beer brands are a classic. In a pub environment, people will be very staunchly defending their beer brand. I only drink Southwark, I only drink VB. Brands have a big role to play in adoption.